Welcome to Flex with Purpose, the podcast where we explore what it means to move toward our highest potential, not for personal gain or applause, but to strengthen others and make the world a better place. I'm your host, Schalee Sanchez, and I am so glad you're with us today. Each conversation is with someone who lives boldly, leads authentically, and lets humility guide them. I am thrilled to have Art Ortiz with us today, a man who exemplifies in his professional and personal life the qualities that we're talking about on this conversation in this podcast. Art, thank you so much for joining us today on Flex with Purpose.
Well, thanks for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
So I'm going to just fill the listeners in a little bit with the connection that I have with you, because they're going to find out a little bit later that you are a dog trainer, and I don't own any dogs currently. So that is not the way that we actually met each other. We are neighbors, which is kind of funny.
Next door neighbors.
We're in different studios right here, right beside each other, right? But that's the setup that we have. So I'm really excited, Art, for you to get to share some of your wisdom and experiences and the ways that humility impacts the way that you lead and the relationships in your life. So thank you for being willing to do that today.
Of course. I know I can just probably knock on your door right now in 2 seconds, but we'll make the best of this. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to be here.
So we're going to start out, Art, with there's this common misconception. A lot of people view living humbly as being small, not talking about the accomplishments or the strengths that you have. Actually, true humility enables us to share those strengths and accomplishments with others in order to inspire, encourage, and help them reach their full potential. Help them see what is actually possible because you're doing it. And so we want to start out by giving you that opportunity to share what have been the significant wins in your life up to this point, and why have they been meaningful to you?
Well, back in June, I tore a tendon in my pinky, and I haven't been able to bend it since then, up until today is Friday. So on Monday was the first time I was actually able to bend it, that the doctors allowed me to bend it. And so it's really important for me. I mean, it's just one pinky, but I don't think people realize how important each pinky plays a role in everything that you do. And especially with my profession, I work with dogs, so I always have a leash in my hand. And so that's been a challenge to navigate and work around. And I've pretty much have figured out a way how to work around it. But the big win is that I'm starting to use it again. So now you can kind of see there's a little bend in it. But now I can actually bend it. I just can't get full range of motion. That's as far as I can go. If I make a fist, that's as far as I go. So as I'm drinking coffee, everybody thinks I'm being a little bougie, a little fancy because I have my pinky up. But it's just because I can't bend it. So the big win is I was actually finally able to bend it for the first time and make somewhat of a fist. So that was huge.
Can you pause for just a moment before you go on to the next win, just to share a little bit of that journey? Because I'm sure that there's plenty of listeners who are either in the middle of a recovery, have experienced an injury recently, or are somewhere in that process. And what has that journey been like for you? Because it can often seem pretty hopeless when we have an injury that limits us so much in the activities that we're used to participating in. So how have you navigated that?
So every week I go to PT. And I would get a new cast. Now, on a side note from what I do professionally as a hobby and for fun, I do jiu-jitsu. And so that's actually how I got the injury, through jiu-jitsu. And it is something that I look forward to, is being physical, and just it's great cardio, obviously. And I've still been training even with my injury, and I've had to navigate or learn not to use one of my limbs pretty much. And in jiu-jitsu, it's kind of important to have all of your limbs. And so, but at the end of the day, not using one limb has actually made me better, because now that I'm able to bring it in, I've been able to navigate with just 3 limbs. And now I've just been doing 3. But the hard part is trying to finish, let's say a choke or something that you're going to be doing, because I need my hands or that pinky. I've been trying to do without it, but it's really hard because that smallest finger in your hand, but it plays such a huge role in getting inside someone's collar and trying to finish a choke, or even grabbing them to do a takedown or whatever. So that has been hard, but also rewarding at the same time because of how I've learned just to navigate. And I told my Alex Martinez, who was we call him my professor, I told him that I was still going to come because if I didn't come, I was going to have a broken heart, and I don't want to have a broken heart and a broken finger at the same time. So it's been, like I said, it's been a fun and challenging. You can't do things like you normally would want to, but it's allowed you to be resilient in ways you didn't know you could be. And it's just, I would get my cast every week, and then I would still go train, and I would, because of habit, I would stick my hand in something and then it would catch the gi and it would pop off. And I was like, oh no, it's going to hinder my recovery, which it had. I think I probably went 2 months longer in my recovery because I was still wanting to train. But that was a risk I was willing to take because I wasn't in pain. I just couldn't use my finger. And I don't regret it. I'm not telling people that they should go train when they're injured. That was just a choice that I made, and I don't regret it one bit. So,
Well, thank you for sharing that because, yes, each decision is going to be individual based on the factors that are impacting you specifically. But it's great to hear how it is possible to move towards full recovery and get to that place. And we celebrate that with you that now you're to that place again, which is awesome. And one of the things that stood out to me as you were talking is that you said that you actually, because of the injury, you're better at jujitsu now than you were before because of the injury and learning to make those adjustments and learning to do things in a different way. So that's really interesting.
that's kind of been my whole life, honestly. Like, struggle. Um, you know, recently when my son River, we were going to be changing his school, and it was kind of really a hard decision for my wife and I because we loved the school that he was at. But there were just some changes that we had to, we decided that we were going to have to, pull him out of the school, and so it was really hard for us. My wife and I, we cried together, and I remember telling her, I know this is hard right now, but I know this is for the better in the long run. And I'll remind you when that happens. And that actually did happen recently because River's been talking about his friends at school. So he's doing really well at this new school, which he loves. And River's my 6-year-old who's in first grade. And he kept telling us about his friends at school. He kept naming them, but we had never gone to an event. They didn't have any events where we could meet the parents, and so they actually had a fall festival, and so we all went there. And I got to see some of his friends, and the parents were there. And there was one parent, one father, and I told my wife, I told Anna, like, I think I know him. And Anna could tell you, I always say that, I think I know him from somewhere. And most of the time I'm right. And I would say 100% of the times I'm right. I just haven't figured out where I know them from. I kept telling her, I was like, I know him, but I think he lived in downtown. He was going to law school, and it was, this was probably 13 years ago when him and I used to like talk in downtown, but I'm not sure if it's him. We were there for about an hour and a half, and then this father comes up. He's like, hi, he mentioned the son's name. I'm the father of so-and-so. And I go, are you Craig? He's like, yeah. Are you Art? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I knew it was you. And so then he's like, hey, we should get together and get the boys together. And it was this moment that kind of made the whole sadness of he's starting a new school. What are we going to do? How are we going to tell him? How he's going to take it? All the concerns and worries that you have. And the way home, I told him, I was like, do you remember when I said that? I go, this is the reason why. Because now we have a connection to another family member that's friends with our son. Because that's, everybody wants to belong, right? Everybody wants to have something to belong to. And I think as we're young parents, not young in age, but young in how long we've been doing this, you want to connect with other parents, especially, to kind of have your kids, hang out and do things together and grow together and do life together. And we didn't really have that. And so now that's changing. And so I'm just really grateful for that opportunity in that moment. And it's just serendipitous how all this stuff happened. I would say it's serendipitous, but it's more of the work of what God has, it's providence, so to speak, right? It's God working in our favor, even through those difficult moments.
Right, bringing good out of what we sometimes view as pain, suffering, setbacks, and
Uh-huh.
then it actually bringing us to a better place or somewhere that we didn't realize that we were even had a possibility of arriving at.
Hmm.
So that really shows an example of that, illustrates really well how that can happen in our lives. I know I kind of cut you off earlier though, so I want to let you go back to sharing some of the other wins that have been significant in your life.
So I'll go back to the whole connection thing. Um, I've just been seeking. I mean, this has been a long process, of everyone wants to be part of something, right? And so I'm part of, the jiu-jitsu gym that I made some really good friends there. And so another win is that I connected with an individual who also does jiu-jitsu. I actually met him in Las Vegas back in September. He's from here. He's from here. And I introduced myself because he himself has a podcast called Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. It's a ministry. And I had I had followed this guy on social media because he was on the podcast. And so I had met with him in Vegas. I introduced myself, I listened to the podcast, and so we started talking. And come to find out, we grew up really close to each other. I grew up on a border in a small town called Del Rio, Texas. He grew up in Sonora, Texas, which is not very far from Del Rio. And I was like, "God, we have the same similar backgrounds, you know?" And so this morning, this is why I was up really early this morning, is because they have like a devotional that they have in the last Friday of the month. And so I this morning went over there and connected with the other guys, and it was just the win was we're studying Philippians chapter 4. I'm sorry, Philippians. This chapter was chapter 4, but we're actually going the whole book of Philippians, and we were in chapter 4. And it was just talking about rejoice always, trust in the Lord. And he says again, I say rejoice. Um, for the Lord is at hand. And the win is that I took home, talking about those difficult moments. Like I always go back and all the difficult things that I've gone through life and how these are like God is putting a lot of people in my place right now for the things that I seek, which is like connection with others. Because my whole life, as we haven't really talked about it, but I connect people to dogs. I'm the one that's facilitating the connecting, but I never had something to other people to connect with because I've been so preoccupied with others, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there comes a point where your bucket runs empty and you need to be refilled. And so uh, I've just been connecting with so many individuals and things that I'm into, the father I'm telling you about, and, this individual and all his group and my teammates where I train jujitsu. So that connection is a big win for me that I've just been connecting with a lot of people.
That's a huge part of life and so valuable. I mean, I was talking earlier at a lunch today about what really makes us wealthy in life, right? It's not the amount of money that we have in our bank account,
Mhm.
but there are relationships in our life that really is what enriches our lives. And being able to make those deep connections with people is what gives us a true opportunity to appreciate the the genuine love that we
Mhm.
share with each other and contribute to one another's lives in a positive way. So that absolutely is a win to celebrate. With you. So as you think about your daily activities, you may not have a typical day that is routine for you specifically, but can you tell us a little bit about the different elements of your day and the things that you prioritize, the things that you always make sure are a part of your day, or maybe you thrive in flexibility and so every day is different for you? What does it look like for you?
It's not really different. Um, the only day that might be different is maybe like on Sunday because I really slow down on Sunday. Um, but I still wake up 4:35 in the morning, and I wake up, and like I said, I have two young boys, and an amazing wife, and I think it's important, as we talk about like connecting with others. It's also important for me that moment to, um, connect with God at that moment, right? So it's for me, it's waking up early in the morning and make my coffee. The dogs are still asleep. I have 7 of my own dogs, and so the dogs are just kind of sleeping. Everyone is sleeping, so the house is quiet. Every once in a while, I might hear my cat making some noise, but it's really quiet in our house. And it's my time just to kind of, before the day gets started, is that, I just kind of drink coffee, I'll read, I'll pray. That's kind of how I have to get my day going. Now, there's been times like not too long ago, I had woken up earlier than I normally do. It was like 2 in the morning because there was a dog that was feeling kind of sick and still barking. They had to go out. So I knew that I had to set my alarm or turn off my alarm because I knew I was probably going to sleep through it. I can't remember why I shut it off, but I ended up waking up later than normal. Okay. And so I remember I had to skip all those things and go straight to the next thing, which is get the dogs out, feed them, get the food ready for my family. I cooked for the family, cook for them, get the lunchbox ready for my kids for school. And then they're off, right? They go to school. And that's where from that moment on, it's my wife and I, we both will work on what needs to be done. Okay. Sometimes I'll have some appointments early in the morning, 8:30, where I have to go and drive out there real quick for an hour and a half or so, come back, or whatever appointments that I have. And then I take a break midday and train jujitsu. At least 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. Um, Again, I just have to be very disciplined. I'm committed to these things, right? I'm committed to waking up at a certain time. Or committed or disciplined to doing these things. And then I also have I have I call him a battle buddy. It's my friend Rich. He lives out in Chicago, and we text each other each day to keep each other accountable. With certain things, whether it's reading and getting a workout done, doing some training, all these little things that it's not just to check a box. It's just to keep each other accountable for our betterment, so we can be better for each other, better husbands, better fathers. And throughout that middle of the day, I'm just kind of like working, and sometimes I have a lot, and sometimes I don't. And it just kind of depends on the day. And then we come home, and dinners are really important for us. And even though my son kind of gets distracted by the things, it's hard to keep him at the dinner table. But we spend some time together, get the kids ready for bed, and do it again. And that's kind of like our routine. And it's pretty much the same every day except for Sunday. Like I said, Sunday's a little bit different. It's a little more slower pace because I know I don't have to get them to school. I don't make lunch boxes, but I do make a breakfast. I do wake up so I can go to church, and then we just kind of spend the whole day together. And Sundays are my favorite day because it's my family. It's the day we go on a bike ride. We did that last weekend. We rode 10 miles to get ice cream, 5 miles to get the ice cream, 5 miles back. So it's just doing something together. And sometimes if I for the most part, Sundays I'm always there, but if I can't be there, Ann will be there, or it'll just be me and the boys, or Ann and the boys, which you've seen many times. You've seen Ann and the boys, or just me and the boys outside doing whatever.
I appreciate you sharing, especially some of the things that really keep you grounded and mentioning that quiet time. So often we see being highly successful, reaching a higher potential in our lives as requiring that we just keep going and going and going. And you were talking about not only on a daily basis, having that quiet time each morning, but then on Sundays, slowing down, allowing things to be at a slower pace and more restful, is actually beneficial in
Yeah.
in your routine. So, as you think about what has helped you in your daily life, what have been some of the elements in your business that specifically have been beneficial for you?
Man, that's where to start with that. There's so many, but I'll kind of just, go from the very beginning. Because when I first started, I didn't have a plan of action. It kind of give you a little bit of my story, how I got started working with dogs. It was an accident. It's not like I woke up one day and says, I'm going to work with dogs and I'm going to change the world. It didn't happen that way. It actually, through some unfortunate things in my life, that kind of pushed me in that direction. What year was it? It was 2011. I'd been married for just over a year, just over a year. And I had left my corporate job. I worked for AT&T. I left that to become a firefighter. I made a third less of the money going from my corporate job to becoming a new firefighter. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to make a difference. I was working for the man, I should, so to speak, right? Working for corporate. And I loved what I did, but it was a very empty feeling of I wasn't really making a difference in this world, you know? And so I wanted to become a firefighter. I wanted to be the person that helped people, help people at their worst. And I've always been somewhat of a servant, loving, helping people. And I thought firefighter would be great. And so I applied with the city of Fort Worth. I prepared myself, I physically, mentally, emotionally, like to go in. And I got in my first time. I took the test, scored in the top 5%, I think it was. Did the physical test, did the background check, the drug test, the lie detector test. Like I did all the tests and I made it through. So I was in their I was as a cadet in their academy. And so I was 34 at this time when this happened. So, and looking back, it's kind of ridiculous, but I got fired from the fire department because I failed a written exam. Now, the way it works in the fire department is that, or when you're a cadet, you have to reach a certain amount of points before you get terminated. So if you're late, there's like 6 points off. And, if have your shoe untied, it's X amount of points or whatever it is. And if you fail a test, it's 6 points. Okay. And once you get to 18 points, you're terminated. So I had flunked two tests. And then the third one, I failed it by 1 point. And so I got terminated. And so that happened. I remember driving home thinking, oh my goodness, what did I just do? What are we going to do? And so my wife at the time was not Ann, it was my ex-wife. That's spoiler alert, getting to that point. And so we were, she was unemployed also. So we're both unemployed with 3 dogs and just kind of not knowing what I'm going to do. She ended up leaving 6 months after I got terminated. So I was living in downtown with 3 dogs. I always say this, 3 dogs and a Dyson vacuum cleaner because I needed the vacuum to pick up the dog hair. And so I didn't know what I was going to do until one day I was walking my 3 dogs and I was on the corner of Main and Ackerd and I was standing in the corner waiting for the light to turn green. This woman approaches me and she's like, excuse me, are you a dog walker? And I'm like, no, like, why would you? Because I have 3 dogs and why would, in my mind, I'm thinking, why would you think that? But whoever this woman was, she planted a seed because I turned that anger into like, maybe there's some potential to become a dog walker here in downtown. So I started thinking of like, New York City has these dog walkers. Why can't I do that? And I need money, I need something to survive off. And so I started to walk people's dogs, just like my friends' dogs, and they would pay me while they were at work. And so it just grew into a business. And that was 2012. And then in 2014, I came out in D Magazine's their 40th anniversary issue. They did a little article on me about the resurgence of downtown. And I'm like 2 years in and I'm like, I'm getting all this like, publicity. And I lived in downtown. I didn't have a car. I had totaled my car. That was the other thing that happened to me. I totaled my car. So I didn't have a car. So the money that I got from the insurance, I used to buy stuff for the business, which was like leashes, poop bags, and just all these little things that weren't a lot, but also that money allowed me to survive for 3 or 4 months or whatever it was, and that allowed me to get experience of handling multiple, because I would walk multiple dogs. I would walk 10 dogs at a time. And so I'd pick up all the dogs, load the elevators in downtown Dallas with these dogs, and I would take them around downtown. And everybody would see me, and they would take pictures. And that's how D Magazine, I think, found me, because the woman who was the editor also lived downtown. And so she's like, I want to do a story about you. And so my claim to fame that no one knows about, that you're going to hear about this, is that I actually beat a billionaire in something. And there was when they were doing this article about downtown, it was between me and Tim Headington. Tim Headington's a billionaire oil and gas that owns the Jewel Hotel in downtown. And so they were kind of debating, should we do a story on Tim Headington for everything that he's done, or should we do a story about this guy who started a dog walking business, do some unfortunate situations, and they chose me. So for once in my life, money didn't matter. I beat somebody that was a billionaire. But that's what allowed me to get experience of being around multiple dogs and being able to manage and handle all that stuff. And I never in a million years would have ever thought that I would end up where I am today when I started back then. You just can't see you can't even see till the next day. You're just kind of living in the moment at that moment, right? And so, I thought I'm just going to do this I'm just going to walk dogs in downtown for my whole life. Things change. You start dating a beautiful girl named Anne. You end up marrying her. You get a house together. And then, she says, I think we should leave downtown. I'm like, no, but why don't we stay here? She's like, well, we're going to raise the kids. I'm like, we'll raise them here. But looking back, that was kind of, it's not a bad idea, but it's not the greatest idea either. And so here we are. Anne and I will be married. Well, we've been married. So this next month will be 10 years that we've been married.
Okay.
So in 27 days, I wouldn't trade those difficult moments of my first marriage, those loneliness. I wouldn't trade those for the world if I would have, knowing now, obviously, but I'm so grateful that I went through those beautiful moments because I would have never experienced my wife. I would probably never experienced having two amazing boys. And I was kind of thinking about this today as I was driving because I have a lot of gratitude for those moments, for those difficult moments. And one of the things that I was thinking about today when I was driving was one decision. I can be one decision off that I could have missed all of this. I could have missed the opportunity to meet my wife. I could have missed the opportunity to not have my boys to steward, my wife to steward and love and care for. And you're just one decision away from that, But luckily I'm just so grateful that just everything's lined up the way it did, even those, difficult moments. Earlier we were talking about like difficult moments, like going through my injury. They're there for a reason. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're there for a reason. People have a hard time seeing past that, but I'm living proof that those difficult moments are not forever. Nothing lasts forever. So you can overcome those things. You just got to go through the suck for a little while, and don't dwell in that. I did dwell. I will say that I did dwell quite a bit in it. I kind of was, victim of, these things, poor me and this and that. But I'm like, it's not getting me anywhere, but it's my story. And that's kind of, other people can, I always tell people when they're going through difficult things, I'm like, look, I'm not in your shoes, but I've gone through difficult shoes before. And I want you to know that it does get better. Just stick around. And I'm not saying don't push those feelings away. Feel all the feels, but know that it is going to get better. And it's just a season in life. And it's been my whole life like that. Talk about my son's new school. That was hard. Making difficult decisions, almost losing all your money. That's hard. Going through COVID, not knowing where your money's going to go. That was hard, and here we are and we're okay.
I'm just kind of speechless right now because you shared some things that I didn't know about you yet. And so I really appreciate the way that you brought those things into this conversation. It has so much value to what we're talking about here and the ways that we do have, we're humans. And so we go through these really sucky moments in our life, and it's hard to look up. It's hard to be able to have this perspective of this is temporary, like you said. And it's not a matter of ignoring the negative and ignoring all of those feelings that we have, but being able to take that next step forward. So, do you have any insight that you can share about what has helped you keep moving forward in those moments?
So earlier when I talked about, community, that I needed that, um, I remember it was this is recent. This is 2 years ago, 2023. Yeah, almost 2.5 years ago. Just was dealing with a lot. I had gone through, I had this anxiety attack or panic attack. I don't know the difference, but I couldn't breathe one day. I just felt so overwhelmed with just the business, and I was tired, and River was very young. I had lost my dog, one of my favorite dogs of all time, my soul dog. So I was going through a lot. And so I started to figure out, like, I need to do something. I need help with whatever's going on with me, and I did therapy. I'm not saying therapy is, actually, I've had very good success with therapy, but it was just to the point, at that point in my life, I'm like, I'm not getting better. And it was just this weird feeling. I just remember telling my therapist, I'm like, it's nothing. I think you're doing a great job. But I feel like I need to be challenged more. I just need a push. And so, there's been so many people in my life that has come since that moment. Okay. And it, even before all this in February, when Ann was pregnant with Canyon, we were at the birthing center, and there was a woman who worked there at the front desk, and super nice woman. Her name is Abby. And I remember Anne had gone to an appointment by herself. One of the very few times she went by herself. Anne comes home, she's like, hey, did you know Abby has a Spotify? She's a singer? I'm like, no, I had no idea. And she's like, yeah, you should check it out, you know? And so I go to Spotify that night. Ann and River had already gone to bed, and I remember just being in my kitchen, and I search for Abby Gamboa, and I'm like, what kind of music is this? And so I saw that she was a praise and worship singer here in Dallas, and I was like, oh, what is this? So I started listening to it, and then I remember this feeling of something that I had never felt in a long time, and it was this familiar feeling, but I'm like, this can't be. Like, I'm going to push this, whatever's happening, I'm going to push it away. And so I started to push it away, this feeling. But I remember crying on my floor of this, I want to push this joy away in a weird way. Like, it was this weird feeling. So that was then, that was like maybe October or so of 2022. Canyon was born in November. February of 2023 is when I had the panic attack. And so then I started to like, I need help. I need to do something. I need to do something. Like and I'm the kind of person that like, I just go all in stuff, right? I'm like, I got to figure out something to do. So I was like, I got to do something crazy. I got to do something like, that's going to be life changing. I've got to do all this stuff. And so I met this, talking to this guy who's a Navy SEAL. And he was like, you should come in. We do this program. Pretty much they just tear you down and build you up, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. And so then I ended up not doing it, just long story short, because I honestly was kind of scared. I was kind of scared of, it was a little too extreme, even though I like doing extreme things. I was like, this may be too extreme for me. And so I decided not to go, but I ended up talking to another guy who was kind of involved in this. And he was like, hey, we got this coaching program. And that was the other thing. I needed some help with my business. I wasn't looking for help for myself, so to speak. I was really looking for help for my business. And so it was like a business coach, mentor. And so getting on a call with this individual, actually wasn't him, it was one of his assistants named Carlos. And, it's a men's group that helps you, be a part of, help you with the business and kind of coaching, which has helped out, social media and all operations and whatnot. And I get on a Zoom call with this guy's name is Carlos. He has a shirt that says Jesus is King. And so I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then we were talking and then he's like, hey, do you mind if I pray for him? I'm like, sure, I guess, At this point, I'm like, that's not what I want. Like, I don't want any part of that. So I got Abby coming in my place, coming within close distance of me. This individual asked to pray for me. Okay. Again, I'm just like pushing this away. And then this program that I had signed up for, and I hadn't, at this point I hadn't decided I was going to go or not. And they had you read 4 books. And two of the books, well, I'll just mention one of the books. One of the books is called Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. Mm-hmm. That book was so impactful for me at that time because of as a father, and what was I supposed to be as an individual, as a father, right? But it was also as a Christian book, and I'm like, okay, this is just all coincidence, right? That's what I thought. Then I was like, you know what? In order for me to train for this Navy SEAL thing, I'm gonna have to know to be a little physical a little bit. So let me start. Aside from working out, let me go ahead and get in jiu-jitsu. So I get in jiu-jitsu. Shout out to Alex Martins. He's a 5th degree black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's from Brazil, and he has a belt that says Jesus loves you. I'm like, okay, like what the heck's going on? So then God started putting people in my way to call me back home, right? And so and of course my parents for the past 30 years have been praying for me consistently. I know that for a fact. So it's not just things that I did, it's other things that other people did, specifically my parents who prayed without ceasing, And so today, fast forward to these past 2 years, not only has my business grown, but from helping this individual, my faith has grown. So not only did I get better intellectually, I got physically better, with the jiu-jitsu, I got mentally better and spiritually better. And so I've never, obviously I'm a human being. I still have these struggles that I work through. Um, but I just give, all glory to God, my journey with that, and so it's just been something that's been very uplifting, and it's something that's new. It's something I don't really share a lot, quite frankly.
Mhm.
And so, that's to answer your question. That was helped me. Those are things that have helped me personally. But I also want to add something real quick, is because talking about prayer, I start my day, and one of my prayers recently, this was maybe like, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks ago. I Because I say I don't share that a lot with people. Like, it's kind of like
Yeah.
my little hidden secret, because of I've been doing this for 30 years with, been pushing that away. And so,
Mhm.
recently I remember praying to God. I was like, God, how can I honor you in the work that I do? Because I work with dogs, like, but I'm building relationship with people and their dogs, and that's what I do professionally. But how can I honor you in the things that I do? This was on a Friday when had that prayer. The next week, I had two people, two families that don't know each other, that they had gotten dogs because their daughters were at Camp Mystic, the
Mm.
Camp Mystic floods. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, this is unreal, right? And I've met with the families, and I'm like, this what I'm supposed to do? Is this how I'm supposed to honor you? And helping these families have some sort of peace in their life from this tragic event, that yes, they got their daughter survive, but their daughters are still struggling because their friends died,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they're going to use an animal that's a creation of God. And so I get really emotional about this, because I don't know what that's like to lose or go through something that tragic,
Mhm.
and yet God has given us these beautiful animals for us to steward. And there's something about a dog that God has given us, this animal, for us to connect with, right? I was having a conversation with someone today that the love that we feel for animals is a small, small portion of what God's love is. A
Yeah.
small, small portion, and yet it's so great to us. But what is even greater, right? And so this has kind of been the trajectory of, kind of like, when I ask God, what do I do? How do I do this? And he's giving me language. He's giving me avenues, streets to go down and say, this is how you do it. This is, so it's guidance, right? And so when I ask, what do I do? How do I do that? I don't know what to do. Well, this is how you do it, you know?
Thank you, Art, so much for sharing your journey and all of the things that you have, all the details of it that I know different listeners will be able to connect with different parts of your journey in significant ways, and different things will resonate with them. But we've got just a few minutes left. And so I want to give you an opportunity to, if there's anything else that you haven't had a chance to say yet, or if there's some word of encouragement or truth that you want to leave the listeners with, then you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I think that to everyone listening out there, and this could be specifically for the people that are struggling right now. You don't know, there's a lot of struggle in this world right now, and there's a lot of people who are eating fine meals, and some people that are not. There's some people that have beautiful houses, and some people are not. So there's people struggling all at the same time. People are being quote unquote successful. Um, I think if there's anything that I can share, is that your struggle today doesn't have to be forever. You can move past those. Just continue to fight for yourself, continue to know that there are better days ahead. And I've had some really highs and some lot of really lows. Uh, and and I say nothing lasts forever, not even the highs last forever, you know? And
Right.
so knowing I want people to take away that, knowing that you can't have highs without the valleys. They kind of come together, And I think that is a big maybe misconception of what success looks like. I think people think no one sees the all the hard work that took to get to that point, all the
Yeah.
sacrifices that people make, because there's a lot of sacrifices, a lot of hard work that goes, that people only see the highlights, So I want to be the one. I mean, I think everybody should show the struggle. I think it's important for people to see the struggle, so that people can know that it does get better.
There is hope, and your authenticity has made that so clear to us today, and I really appreciate you being willing to do that. If there's someone that's listening that wants to connect with you, do you have a website or how could they reach out to you? Art, is there a way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, you can see all the things that we do on social media. We've got Facebook and Instagram. Probably Instagram is the one we use the most. We're on TikTok, but I don't really use it that much. I feel like I'm too old for it, but I know all the kids are using it. So, but TikTok is DogFit Dallas. It's DOGFIT Dallas. Fit like fitness, so DogFit Dallas is Instagram. We also have dogfitdallas.com. Has all our stuff on there. That's mainly how they can reach us, and love to chat with if anybody has any questions. If and I will say that a lot of what I do is building the relationship. That's my main goal. Like I hear people all the time like, huh. So like, I'm not there to change the dog. I'm there to help people understand their dog so they can make the change to have a better relationship with their dog. Like I fired somebody this week because I felt they weren't going to make the changes. Like they were not. They were just too arrogant in their ways about making changes. I'm like, I can't work with that. That hadn't happened in a long time, but it happened like last week. Maybe it might have been. It was actually this week. So again, they can find me there. A lot of what I do is build relationship with people and build relationship with their dogs, and how can we coexist in a world that's a human world, but we bring a dog into our home, but we have to also meet them halfway.
Thank you. Really appreciate you, Art, and have enjoyed this conversation with you today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Or having me, I should say. I say us, I'm including Anne.
Yeah, yeah.